I predict Jeff Bezos will play himself in the next Iron Man movies. And if you guys thought that was hilarious, you guys will enjoy my top 5 retail predictions for 2020. So before I jump into 2020's predictions, I want to kind of cover 2019's. So I want to recap that and just kind of give you guys a sense of how my predictions played out and just some further updates from that video last year. The first prediction that I had was that Facebook and all of their kind of connected apps, so Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, and maybe even in a sense of Oculus in terms of like virtual reality, I thought that they would get closer to being a commerce arm, a shopping experience, that they would make a very aggressive move to become a retailer. And my logic here was that Google and Amazon have search engine market pretty much locked up. But what's better than typing or saying what you want into a search engine? It's already knowing what you want before you even think about it. And Facebook knows you better than pretty much anybody else. They have tons of data on you. So I believe that they would start to leverage that into more of a commerce experience. How did I do on this one? I was right in a sense, kind of. I mean, I honestly thought they would do a very aggressive, like chips all in type of a move towards shopping and commerce to connect ad and product sales. But you didn't see that. You did see a lot of testing. You did see some different focuses and improvements to some of their existing kind of shopping tests from the previous year. But you didn't see that kind of all-in move. And honestly, for me, I believe that came down to they had a lot of scrutiny on them this year. They had a lot of people kind of paying attention to what they're doing from a privacy perspective. And I think any like super aggressive move that they had on their agenda for 2019 kind of got pushed to the side and it moved into more of like a stealthy testing mode. Is this story over with? Definitely not. I think 2020, you're going to see probably some more aggressive moves, especially if some of the scrutiny on Facebook subsides over this year. The second prediction that I had of 2019 was that I believed Amazon was going to buy Kohl's and also buy some of the shuttered Kmart, Sears locations. Logic here was that Amazon would be best served in a omni-channel kind of world right now in the near term to have a general merchandise retailer, physical retailer like Kohl's. Thought Kohl's worked pretty well for what they were looking to do, especially with some of their private label ambitions. And I also thought that with the physical retail ambitions that Amazon had, specifically around grocery, I thought that shuttered Sears and Kmart locations, their real estate portfolio, some of those could be purchased and be utilized in a kind of a small micro fulfillment center for online grocery, or in some cases could be retrofitted to become Whole Foods markets. So obviously, Amazon did not buy Kohl's this year. They did deepen their partnership with having their returns be accepted across all of 1,100 or so of Kohl's stores. I think that was up from 100 stores the year before. And from what I know in terms of like public announcements or any type of news organizations kind of reporting on this, I didn't see any real estate transactions that Amazon went through, at least from a meaningful standpoint, with Sears and Kmart shuttered stores. So how did I do on this one? I was wrong. But like I said, the partnership did grow with Kohl's in 2019. And with the performance of Kohl's being, kind of lackluster, I honestly don't think this story is over yet. I think Amazon could potentially still want to gain access to a general merchandise retailer, specifically around apparel, to make sure that people can touch and feel and try on their apparel. That's still kind of a sticking point for Amazon. I think Kohl's having kind of a general merchandising strategy, even though it's very heavy on apparel, I think works well for Amazon. And I think if you see some additional deepening of the partnership over the year, you start seeing private labels, Amazon private labels, or there are brands starting to have shelf space on a Kohl's through some type of partnership. I think that then if that produces some positive results Amazon goes in and totally buys Kohl's, or they take what they learn there and they create their own general merchandising retailer. And that's probably going to be sometime the end of 2020, 2021 for something like that type of a prediction. The third 2019 retail prediction that I had was that I believed Walmart and Sam's Club would start to resemble warehouses more. Logic here was that Walmart and Sam's Clubs are huge kind of squares or rectangles. They have open layouts. They have high ceilings. They're pretty bare bones. They honestly already look like a warehouse from the aesthetics perspective. And I thought that they would modularly change the space to adapt to some of the trends with e-commerce and online grocery. So how did I do on this one, guys? I was right. You might not notice it if you are a Walmart or a Sam's Club shopper because they didn't really go crazy with this. They're still kind of going through some tests. You definitely saw them aggressively move towards click and collect, having that available at almost all of their locations at this point. You also saw them really moving towards on-demand delivery, using their stores as kind of a hub for online grocery for them to compete against Amazon and now other grocery stores. But they did start testing like hyper-local fulfillment as well within some of their store locations. And they did start remodeling some of the stores in 2019 and into 2020 and I think 2021. They're really going to start allocating more of the square footage at these stores and utilizing them for some of these different omni-channel initiatives. So this one was maybe not noticeable depending on which Walmarts and Sam's Club that you shop at, but overall they did move a pretty big way towards my prediction becoming a reality. The fourth prediction that I had for last year was that I believed Amazon was going to get really serious about physical retail stores. My logic here was Amazon was getting really aggressive with some store concepts that they were launching in 2018. That was building off the transaction with Whole Foods Markets. And the excitement around Amazon Go announcement and their expansion efforts just kind of got me in this mindset that I thought Amazon was really going to get aggressive in 2019 with their physical store ambitions. Now, how did I do on this one? I was definitely wrong on this one. Amazon did not go all in yet on some of these physical store concepts. They're still kind of in testing mode in a lot of them. They're kind of still just launching them at a pedestrian pace. Also, over this year, they've further created other concepts, physical retail concepts as well. So they haven't really hit that pattern or sequence that they believe is going to be a win, that they're going to go all in and kind of move their chips into. I think at this point, Amazon is up to like 600 total locations, physical store locations, but 500 of them are Whole Foods. So you're not seeing a ton of growth in some of these other store concepts just yet. And the final prediction that I had for 2019 was that I believe that retail was really going to be in the sense of buy, build, or partner, and honestly really focused around the partner aspect of it. My logic here was that consolidation was really heavy and the environment for consolidation is continuing to be pretty good. So you were going to see some aggressiveness in terms of the mergers and acquisitions. But for those that maybe didn't have the appetite for some of that aggressiveness on the M&A side, or maybe they just didn't have the cash flow or whatever reason, the restriction in terms of the business that they couldn't really get aggressive that way, I thought that they were going to start creating strategic partnerships with other businesses that could help them extend out their brand in a way that maybe was a little less cost heavy than building a bunch of locations or going out and buying another retailer. So how did I do on this one? Honestly, so many partnerships. I was kind of right on the money on that one. Won't run through all of them. You guys have probably seen them all through the headlines. Just some few ones that kind of came off the top of my head. You had Amazon and just about every retailer creating a partnership with them allowing returns in their store. You had Lidl and Boxed making a partnership. You had Walgreens and Kroger making a partnership. So to recap on the 5 from last year, scorecard was 3 out of 5. I think I got pretty much right on varying levels. 1 out of 5, I was wrong, but I'm a little bit closer to maybe a right answer in the future. And then 1 out of 5, I definitely think I was wrong and I'm still early on right now. But let's transition into 2020. Let's see kind of where I think the retail world is moving in 2020. And the first one that I want to talk about is around the retail apocalypse continuing to happen, but maybe not at the pace that we had in 2019. So in 2019, the estimate was that 9,300 stores were closed. And if you think about The UBS analyst stated that for every increase in 1 percentage point of digital penetration of total sales, that would equate to between 8 and 8,500 store closures that would need to happen. And based on US consensus reports on just spending and e-commerce numbers, they saw a 1.2% increase in the digital penetration. So if you think about the numbers, they actually came pretty close to that. Analysts' prediction estimates, while I think 2020 will have a further expansion in the digital online penetration of commerce, I think you're going to see probably closer to a 2% gain. I don't necessarily think you're going to see the bloodbath of retailers closing. That would honestly get us to somewhere between 16 and 1,700 stores. I just don't think that's going to happen. And partly because I think that retailers have made a ton of aggressive moves to correct some of the issues with some of their portfolio already, some technology, some looking at their cost structures, a ton of different things that I think they're going to extend their runway enough to get out of 2020 without a complete bloodbath. Now, will that create an interesting situation in 2020 based around winners and losers, and those losers not really having much runway left? I think yes, unfortunately. So I'm thinking 2020, you're still going to see a ton of like bankruptcy, store closures. I think a lot of other retailers maybe that are doing well that you might not think need to start closing stores will do that just to right size their portfolio. But I think overall, you're going to be less than that 9,300 stores that closed in 2019. The second prediction that I have for 2020 in the retail world is that I believe that Amazon will build, not buy, their next grocery chain. Now, I've heard some chatter here and there from people that also were kind of making some predictions over the last year that they thought Amazon was going to get really aggressive with another acquisition in the grocery market. A lot of them were pointing towards Kroger, which kind of seems a little bit outlandish to me. And that's partly because that's a much bigger grocer than Whole Foods, much more fragmented, and just a lot of other things going on. So for them to get in there and kind of blend everything into an Amazon way would be tough. It would be a long-term project for them to do that. And that might not necessarily mean that that's a bad thing, but I don't think that they have another appetite to integrate a grocer. I think they're just going to build their grocery chain of the future. I don't think that they're going to buy out another one. I think that you're going to start seeing those launch in the early part of this year. You're going to see some large scale kind of Amazon Go style stores that are also paired with like autonomous hyperlocal fulfillment and a bunch of other bells and whistles that we really haven't seen in the grocery industry as a whole. And I think that you might not see a ton of those locations open in 2020, but I think you're going to see enough of them that Amazon is going to see if this is working or not. I think this is going to be positioned more on the economical, traditional, conventional grocery side. I don't think this is going to be anything that would erode or cannibalize the Whole Foods kind of premium, supernatural kind of positioning that they have. So I think you're going to see one that is going to be a very futuristic grocery store that is going to take on the likes of Kroger. They're not going to actually purchase Kroger. The third prediction that I have for the retail industry in 2020 is that I believe private label CPG sees a crazy year of growth. So according to IRI data of 2019, private label CPG grew at about 4%, which was less than the 6% the year before, but 4% was doubling up the branded CPG sales as a whole in terms of their growth. So though it wasn't as aggressive as 2018, 2019 still was a very strong year of growth for private label, but I think that you're going to see a growth rate that matches or exceeds that 6% that you saw in 2018 in the CPG world. And my reasoning behind this is that retailers are moving their private labels outside of their four walls. So they're starting to create private labels that can be effective brands outside of just their retail walls. Retailers are also stopping with like the Me Too private labels, just copying the best-selling products in their retail chain and moving towards innovating, and their product dev strategies are evolving. You're going to see more interest in consumers picking those up because of it. I think Amazon overall has only touched the surface on what their private label business is going to be like. And with retailers trying to create exclusive experiences through product and through honestly whatever way possible to create switching costs with consumers and kind of create a little bit of a moat around their business, you're going to see them lean on private label products in a very strong way over this next year. The fourth prediction that I have for the retail world for 2020 is that I think this is going to be the year of kind of this fake it until we make it type of consumer. So playing off of the last prediction of private label, I think this is a part of it in a way, but I think it gets much deeper when you start to think about some of these layaway type of technologies, helping people buy things that maybe they can't really afford in a digital way now. That was obviously a very big driver of like department stores and things back in a very analog way where you put things on layaway, especially around the holidays. I know that my family did a ton of that growing up. You're also seeing curated online, like secondhand used product marketplaces really gain momentum and traction. You got a ton of investments going towards them. Some of them are going public as well and planning to go public through 2020. You have online like rental startups also gaining a ton of traction. And not only just those startups, but you're seeing other established consumer brands that are thinking about adding a service like that so consumers can rent items. And you also have startups that are buying a massive amount of returns that I think are then reselling them and creating a different kind of market for open box items. You kind of add up all that innovation and kind of new entrants and new commerce opportunities in the market, and you kind of add that with some of the consumer trends around mindful consumption, sustainability, and not wanting to spend on a bunch of physical things and more towards experiences. You have millennials and kind of younger, if they follow the trends of millennials, really kind of set this up for a perfect retail trend that is going to explode in 2020. And then the last prediction that I have for the retail industry is one that I touched on in the introduction here. And honestly, just let me kind of walk through this a little bit because it gets a little bit crazy here. This is probably my crazy prediction out of the 5. I think that Amazon acquires Under Armour. If you guys watched a lot of my videos over the last couple of years, you guys know I love to kind of try to predict the future and think about things crazy. Even though I'm not really a gambler or anything like that, it's just kind of fun for me to play a little game theory and figure out if this is probable or viable in the future. Under Armour is kind of struggling right now. Stock price is not doing all that well. They turn over from the CEO level, the founder, Kevin Plank. Amazon is struggling to create athletic apparel business. They know how powerful that is, especially with the partnership they had with Nike. They know that a ton of athletic apparel can be purchased through their marketplace, but they're struggling to create that private label. I think Under Armour also has some technology startups within the portfolio. They're connected fitness apps that are interesting to Amazon. They can play off that in a bunch of different ways. And Under Armour sells a ton at Kohl's. I know I talked about that last year. I think Amazon was going to buy Kohl's, and you never know. This could be further deep reason for Amazon too. It kind of connects a lot of different things and makes them check some marks and make them feel good about a purchase like Under Armour, even if it sounds crazy. So is a match made in heaven? I don't know, maybe. I mean, I think that it's interesting to think about. But for me to get this even crazier, let me kind of trickle this in a little bit. Maybe you guys think this is funny as well. I think that Amazon, after they buy Under Armour, is going to change the name of Under Armour to Amazon Under Armour. And I think that Jeff Bezos goes out and tries to purchase the rights from Disney to create the next kind of set of Iron Man under the Amazon Media arm and launch it on Amazon Prime Video. But unfortunately, he's denied. Bob Iger says, no, I'm not going to give you up that asset. So instead, Jeff Bezos goes out and creates a ton of new IP around superheroes. He creates his own superhero in which he plays Iron Man. He's wearing his Amazon Under Armour Iron Man suit. And then he uses a Blue Origin spacecraft to fly around to really kind of show off that side of his portfolio as well. Crazy, I know, doesn't make any sense, but hopefully you guys got a little bit of a laugh out of that one. If you guys have any retail predictions for 2020 that I didn't think about or I didn't name or you guys want to talk about, I'd love to hear those comments down below. If you guys enjoyed some of my predictions, would love to hear which one you guys did as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.